He is like the executive producer.
Oh, absolutely.
He is.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Next Good Thing, a channel where I help you do stuff.
Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate the encouragement. I'm here with my roommate Courtney, who you may remember from our recent travel videos, and introducing my best friend Miranda. Woo! And we're here today to answer some of your questions. Our first question comes to us from the Accidental Academic, who asks, what would you do about first day jitters? Whether it's a first day at school or a first day on the job, it can be a stressful situation. Good question. For me, I like to focus on the things that I can control before a first day, and this was the same for me at school or when I started my first job. So I tried to make as much of it familiar to me as possible. So I would wear an outfit that I knew I felt comfortable in. Instead of buying a new outfit, it would just sort of help me feel comfortable in my skin and more like myself and ready to face the day. What about you guys?
So I agree with this, that you should control what you can and try to release what you can't and know yourself. So I'm the worst at directions. Same. My friends know this because I can get lost in a big enough house. But and that is a stressful factor that I don't actually have to deal with in something like a first day of school. And I work as a TA, so I'm also teaching at a school, and so it's always possible for me to find the classroom the day before the class begins. Whether I'm the student or the teacher of the class, the end of the day, the campus is open, you know your room number assignment, you go, you find the door, and then that's one less thing that you have to worry about when you show up on that first day.
I actually am really bad at directions too, and before I started high school I did that. They had just a night for incoming freshmen to look around the school, and I did, and I learned where the classrooms were, and it helped.
Yeah, and that's a good time when you can, even if you don't know the exact classroom, you might know like the building names, you can get a little more acquainted with the campus. It will really help.
Well, I always relied on, if I had one item that I was wearing that I felt amazing in, then that's a huge confidence booster. So if I can walk into, whether it was school or a new job, and be like, all right, these shoes are killer, everybody's gonna love them. It can be a starting point in topics when you're conversing with new people as well, because it's very easy to start and be like, oh my gosh, I love your shirt, where'd you get it?
Yeah. Another one of my friends has a little music note necklace that she always gets compliments on, and she wears it whenever she needs to start something new because it makes her feel good. It's less about looking the part and more about feeling yourself instead of feeling out of place and you're a fish out of water. I understand that this might not always be easy for everyone if you're at a school where there are uniforms or you're working at a place where there's a strict dress code. Just do your hair in a way that's comfortable. Wear a color if that's possible that you feel comfortable in. Small things can help a lot. It can make the new seem familiar.
Yeah, and keeping yourself comfortable throughout that experience of the first day is also important and can be really difficult if you have like a social anxiety. So something I have encountered is maybe I walk into a college lecture hall where you can sit wherever you want, and the first place I sit, there's a huge glare coming through or I can't hear very well. And if the class hasn't started yet, you can totally get up and move. And you might feel the social anxiety that you can't do that or that it would be weird. But in actuality, if the class hasn't started and you realize you're already uncomfortable, you still have time to take control of that like small factor that then like makes a big difference, because now you're more comfortable, now you can see better, now you can hear better. Like, don't be afraid to get up and make that change, or take off your sweater if you're hot or something, which can feel so paralyzing if you're you're socially anxious. But knowing like you have my permission to do it.
Yes,
you have
all
Jill's
of our
permission to do it. Move
you
your
have Ham's
seat.
permission too.
Yeah.
Picture this face.
Do those small things and know that it will actually make that experience much better, because the care continues throughout that first day, not just in the lead up to it.
You still matter in that time. Yes. I know that a lot of a first day is nerve-wracking because it involves putting yourself into a new situation and you feel like, oh, I have to perfectly fit this new situation, and you try and mold yourself like Play-Doh to fit it. But you're being introduced to it just as it's being introduced to you. It's the workplace that you're going to, or the school that you're going to, and the people in both of those places, they have to get used to you too. So it's always best to be the most authentic version of yourself that you can be.
Yeah, that's awesome advice.
Thanks.
Good job.
Thanks. I have the most supportive friends. Like, when all else fails, just get you some real supportive friends, guys. Okay, this is our next question.
Ooh.
Yeah, guys, I'm wearing my glasses. Means I'm smart now.
We're getting serious.
I was gonna say
here.
you're old.
And just after
like that
she said,
direction
like,
better.
oh, I have such supportive friends.
Our next question comes to us from Carrie Doyle, who asks, how do you go about getting yourself ready and motivated for a big presentation at work? I will say, first of all, that a lot of what we just said about first day jitters definitely carries over to doing a big presentation. It's really important to make yourself feel comfortable when you're up there, especially if you're someone who's not used to public speaking or who just really doesn't enjoy doing it. The more that you can make yourself feel comfortable and natural, the easier it'll be for you. You don't want to have to be up there and be like, I've never worn this dress before. What do I do with my arms?
Yep. I've been thinking about what to do with my arms through this whole video. They look kind of weird, I don't know.
No, they're fine. Use them like arms. I like that. Let's all just be dinosaurs.
Pockets?
Another thing that stresses people out about big presentations is the lack of control, and sometimes that comes from the fact that you're presenting to someone who is somehow in charge of you or has the authority to give or take something from you, whether it's a grade or a promotion or a job assignment, whatever that is. Or the control issue might come from the fact that you are in a group and you're just stressed because you can't control the other people who are affecting this presentation. I'd say for the latter, for the group, do everything that you can to make sure that you all work together and communicate, just so that you can feel that you've put your best foot forward in this scenario. It is hard, and whether you're in school or whether you're working in an office, coordinating between a lot of people is never easy. Try to make it as easy as possible for everyone involved. But when you've done that, let it go and just make sure that everything that you touch is the best work that you can do. While you can try to facilitate open communication and peace between everybody, if it doesn't get there, that's not necessarily your fault. And people who see you do your part of the project will know the effort that you put in. And if you're alone and you're giving a presentation and it's just a one-on-one or a one person to a group that you have to do, just give yourself the time to rehearse. It's best, of course, if you can give yourself a few days or a week to just really learn the material. But if you're assigned something one day and have to present it the next day, or if you just have a lot of other stuff to do and finish your presentation late, that's okay. Just take 10 minutes, get zen, and just run through the words a few times. And then just let go. I always say that anxiety comes from thinking about something that you are about to do or thinking about something that you just did. I tell Miranda this all the time too, you won't actually feel anxious while you're doing the thing because your brain is too consumed with doing the thing. So once you get up there, just trust in the fact that a lot of the stress will melt away because you just won't have time to think about it.
I have, I think, one technical suggestion and then one personal suggestion. I give a lot of presentations. That's what I do. I'm a teacher. And we have to use a lot of PowerPoints, a lot of visual aids, and something that often happens or that can be very stressful is your technology going to work?
Yeah.
You often never know. So you can bring a flash drive or email it to yourself, have a backup plan. If it isn't possible, think about what you might do. Could you give that presentation without visuals? usually you can, and it just might not be what you wanted, but it might also still be okay.
And that even might help you, because that's definitely a concrete thing that you can do with your hands, which is a huge issue when people are giving presentations. They're always like, I don't, pockets? How? But, you know, when you don't have a visual aid, your hands are naturally going to try and produce an image or a gesture that will communicate this information to you.
So if that's, again, taking control of those small things that then it's like, if you show up and they have, so I always have to bring ports, and it's like, might be VGA, might be HDMI, I'll bring them all. In that anxious moment, it'll feel like the technology being, you know, dysfunctional is the end of the world, but of course it's not. And then you won't have to feel that way because you know you have alternatives.
That's actually really good advice. I had to moderate a panel with some people who are really important in my field, and they were all communicating via Skype. And so they actually suggested the day before that we all just do a quick test Skype call in the rooms that we would be Skyping from the next day, because that just gave us a sense of what the internet was. And if you can do something like that, just troubleshoot your technology in the place you plan on using it, that can just do a world of good.
Yes, troubleshooting technology, or sometimes just asking the person in charge, what will the technology be? They will always be happy to tell you that in advance, and it will make that small thing not a thing you have to stress about.
And if it's a big infrastructure-y kind of issue, like the internet went down, because that happens a lot, especially in cities, like the internet goes down all the time. That's not your fault, and no one's gonna blame you for that happening. So don't stress about the things that are out of your control, because no one's going to assume that they ever were.
Yeah, that's really good. My biggest suggestion is just to know your audience.
Yes.
When you're doing a presentation at work. At least in my case, it could be many different things. It could be that I'm presenting something to the chief creative officer. It could be that I'm presenting something to my peers in like a large team. Or it could be like drawing for 28 5-year-olds. You know, and so
roll of the dice.
It's just a roll of the dice sometimes. All three are all real situations that I have faced or will face soon. I would consider that a big presentation, because for all three you have to have very different attitudes. You know, perhaps for the chief creative officer, you're going to be a little bit more professional. Depending on your relationship, you may be able to speak more casually, or if you do have to speak more formally. For your peers, a lot of times it's kind of getting to like a common thing that you all like, or you can all reference on, or if there are friends in there, it eases the presentation. And then when it's 5-year-olds, you have to be like very animated and over the top, and prepare sometimes even more, just to make sure that they're not getting bored and running off and doing other things.
And going off that, do whatever it is you need to prepare for that audience. If you have to present to some 5-year-olds, just be prepared for loud things. Maybe listen to some loud music and really upbeat music before you go into work that day. If you're gonna have to have a really professional, even-toned presentation, just, you know, whatever the equivalent of meditation is for you. Meditation doesn't work for me, but, you know, listening to a song or just taking a nice shower and just sort of clearing my head, I find that to be pretty useful.
And Courtney's advice about knowing your audience ties into my personal advice part, which also ties into the music part, which is know yourself and like what will put you in a certain mood that you might need, and then based on your audience, then you can pump up or pump down for that situation. So I've had, you know, interviews where I go in, you know, driving to Lady Gaga and making myself feel confident and empowered, and just constantly I have to remind myself, like, they want to interview you, they're interested in you, and I really pump myself up in the car with music and like affirming myself that this is going to be a positive thing, as compared to maybe something like an oral exam where I'm going to be asked a lot of questions and I need to be very chill and I need to be able to like think very quickly to respond to those questions. Something like that, I would stay very calm, listening to like some folk music in the car and like keeping myself centered in the car, versus like, yeah, I'm gonna go in and drop the mic on all these people.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense, because it is important to like make sure you know the information as well as you can, but I would argue that it's more important that your headspace is correct for the situation, whether it's matching the energy of some 5-year-olds or being super chill during an oral exam. When you feel like you match that energy, you'll be better able to adapt to some unexpected situations in whatever those are. Like if a kid throws a whole box of markers across the room while you're doing your presentation, like if you are in that kid frenetic headspace, you'd be like, okay, we're gonna pick up those markers. Whereas if you were super chill, you'd be like, oh my god, what's happening?
Yeah.
And like conversely, if you were like in a super hyped up headspace and you were having to do this super calm oral exam, you wouldn't want someone to be like, Anna, what do you think about this aspect of Darwinism? And you'd be like, right, okay, yeah. You don't want that. You'd be like,
yes.
Okay, just take a minute to think. Just, audience is important.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to take a moment and breathe if you're feeling really anxious. Actually, pauses can be good things.
Yes.
Because when you're giving a presentation and you pause, it allows for everyone to sink in what you had just said, but it also has the added benefit of just letting you like breathe calmly for a minute.
Yeah.
If you're an anxious person, you'll feel like that pause was 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It
But
never
it
is.
never is.
Yeah, so
Never is.
take the pause. I know people, even teachers, who like pause outside the door before they open the door to the classroom.
Yeah.
To just like take that deep breath before walking in and beginning to teach.
Yeah.
And it seems so small, but it can really help to make sure you're like breathing and doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thanks for watching. I think that's all we have for you today. Remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. I make new videos every Wednesday. And, as always, I believe in you!